Alright, so for the second raid in the Dux Britanniarum campaign, we will see the Saxons attempting to raid this farm community here. So on the table, this is what the terrain will look like before deployment. Over here on the south side, we have some cliffs kind of overlooking the village. And on the other side, we have a nice forest kind of sandwiching the farming village between them. And then in the middle here, we have, a vineyard and several farms and 4 small buildings. And so for this, we will have the Saxons have groups enter the buildings, and on a roll of a 6, they will find some plunder, and then they will have to attempt to leave the field before they are wiped out by the Brits. So I'll go back. So I'll be back in a moment with the initial deployment of the forces for turn 1. So we finished our initial deployment, and as you can see, the Saxons are already holding the town. And that is due to because when we start the scenario, the Saxons get to roll to see how many movements they get before the Britons arrived. And they rolled a 6, which meant they got to roll 4 different movements. So they were able to move all the way from the corner edge into the middle of the town here and hold it. So we have our British missiles at the back of the town with a clear view up the middle, able to shoot at the Britons as they approach. We have here in the middle, we have a group with my leader and hero that are going to try and loot the main farm building. We have a group of warriors over here trying to protect the flank of the Saxons. And then at the top of the town there, we have a warrior group and 2 elites kind of holding the front of the village, awaiting the Britons' advance. Now, and while it may seem pretty dire for the Britons, given the Saxons are already in the town, they rolled for how many groups they would bring onto the table on turn 1, and they rolled a 6, so they got to bring their entire army on. So at least they caught a break in that way. However, I couldn't even fit them all on their entry point, so they're kind of wrapping around in this long shield wall, which actually looks pretty cool here on the edge of the table. So they are going to try and rush to the town as quickly as they can to try and prevent the looting, but they are going to have their work cut out for them, as the Saxons have already entrenched pretty well inside the village. So here are the initial fate cards for the Anglo-Saxons. They start off always with goad, which allows them to kind of pick where they want to attack on a Briton shield wall. We have aggressive charge, which allows them to add 1 to the hit roll on a charge. They have strong arm that helps the warriors are able to throw a missile attack before the combat begins. And then we have true aim, which helps with our skirmishers, and armor bright, which allows a leader to ignore 1 hit on them. So a pretty good starting hand for the Saxons, some very useful cards in there. Alright, so for the Britons, they have kind of a mixed bag here. They have 2 shield wall braced, which are nice. It will allow them to be a little bit more durable in combat. They have a hero of the age, which they always start with, which allows a leader or champion to double their dice rolled in combat. That's very nice. They have a fleet of foot, which allows missiles to move a full distance and fire. And they have, of course, a Desperare, just like last time. We're starting off with one of the worst cards in the deck starting off. So not too good, but hopefully I'll be able to replace that quite quickly, quite early on. So those are the fate decks. We're going to move on now to the activations for turn 1. Alright, so for the first activation, it will be the Saxon Lord. Alright, so that's my Saxon Lord there in the middle, and he is going to attempt to loot this building. So I'm going to use one of my 3 activations in order to attempt a loot. So I have a group, and I have my Lord, and I have my champion there. So I actually have a group and 2 what are considered big men. So I will be able to roll 3 dice in my looting attempt of this building. So in my first attempt, I got a 2, a 4, and a 5. I failed to loot the building. I'm going to then use my second activation to try that again. I think you're allowed to do that. It didn't say in the rulebook that you couldn't loot multiple times on the same activation. All right. So on a 6, I was able to grab the loot. So here's my little loot sack. I haven't painted it yet, so sorry about that. But I will put that with that group. Now I have 1 activation left. Now I could just try and get out of this battle, try and retreat with the loot and call it a day. But I know Leonhard here is a little sore about how bad the last battle went for him. The fact that his men couldn't provide him reinforcements and left him out to dry, and he is itching for a fight. So Leonhard is not going to retreat right now. Instead, I will have that group kind of hold back. But now Leonhard, he is going to, I think he's going to move and join a new group. Alright, so looking over the rules, actually I need to pass 2 looting tests. So I only got 1 looting test out of this building. So with my third command point, or third initiative point, I am going to have the group try and loot this building right there. So I'll get 3 dice once again. And on that, I do not loot anything. Alright, so good. I thought I had already finished the objectives, but no, it'll take a little bit longer. I need to pass another test in that building. So we will have a... So the Saxons haven't finished what they need to do yet. Alright, for the second activation, we will have Saxon leader number 2. So Saxon leader number 2 is Rickamere here. And for his first activation, he is going to move this unit up, and I only want it to go to the tree line there. It's the edge of that pine tree. So I'll declare that as the end of my movement. So for their movement, they'll be able to move 3d6. It'll take a miracle for them not to make it to that tree. So yeah, they'll more than make it to this tree line right here. He is attached, so he'll go back there. And then for my second activation for Rickamere, I will draw another fate card. So for the fate card, you'll get a bounding move, and I'll use that. And I'm going to replace true aim with bounding move. Alright, for my next activation, I'm going to activate British Leader 1. So it will be Magnus Maximus's, my Leader 1's activation. First thing he's going to do is he's going to move these levy here, these limitani, and he will be able to roll a 3d6. He's not going to put them in a formation. just trying to get them up the board as quickly as possible, and they are only going to be going 5 inches. It's not great. So basically they'll get to the front of this pond here and stop. For his second activation, he is going to activate the Comitatensis unit here. They will also get 3d6 movement. Alright. So they will be able to go 10. I am treating this as this pond here as light terrain, so they will only be able to go 7 of those 10 inches. And that will be Magnus Maximus's turn. And for the next activation, we will have the British missiles go. So for this, I'm going to use a fleet of foot for the my skirmishers activation, so that they may move and shoot without any penalty. So my unit of missiles here, they will also be able to go 3d6. They will be able to go 12, and they also will ignore the first pip of any terrain that they will cross, so they won't have to really worry about crossing that pond. Alright, so we will have this unit of skirmishers. They're going to be firing on this unit of warriors over here that are accompanied by the Anglo-Saxon leader Rickamere there. So they'll be getting 4 shots onto these warriors. So after measuring the distance between the skirmishers, the missiles there, and the warriors, they are out of 12-inch range, so they will only be hitting these warriors on 5s and 6s. So they get 4 shots, and on 5s and 6s. Let's reroll that. Alright, so we got 2 hits. Now we will roll to see what happens. A 1 and a 1, so nothing happens with shots on the warriors. Alright, next activation is Saxon leader number 1. Alright, so we're over here with Wulfric, and he'll have 2 initiative points that he can use. First thing he's going to do is he's going to turn these 2 elite units into a mass formation so that they'll be able to move together. Since I am moving into a formation, they will only be able to roll 2d6 for movement. And I'm going to call out, I want them to kind of form a line with the unit of warriors to their right. So they don't have too far to go. I just want to have a nice defensive position for when the Britons all arrive. So I'll go ahead and roll my 2d6. I get a 5 and a 1. So they will be able to go 6 inches. They will not need 6 inches. All I'm going to have them go is about 3. So we'll have, they're more doing kind of a wheel, I guess. So the Saxon battle line is ready to meet the Britons, it looks like. And that is the end of Wulfric's turn. All right, for the next activation, it will be the British Lord. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put these guys into a shield wall formation. They will be only, since they're in a shield wall formation with warriors and elites, they will be able to roll a 2d6. Oh my goodness. And they only roll 3 inches. Wow. That's really bad. So they are going to have a really pathetic move here. Yikes. That was not, we'll put the Lord right back there. That was not what they wanted. Man. Alright. And he still has 1 command point left, my British Lord. So he is going to draw a fate card. So they will be drawing a disengage card that will allow them to retreat from any ongoing combat. I don't know how helpful that's going to be actually for the Britons. They're trying to get into that village. They're not going to be wanting to retreat away. Good. We have British leader number 2. Alright, so British leader number 2 is Brigands here. And he is going to, for his activations, do I want to put them into a formation? You know, I don't think I want to put them into a formation yet. So I'm going to move this levy. They're moving in open terrain, so they get 3d6. Oh, there we go. So they'll get 14 inches of movement. Now, for my next activation, I'm going to activate these levy here. I'm going to call out. I'm going to try and get them up next to the other levy. I'm not sure if they'll make it, but that'll be kind of my maximum move. They won't make it, but they have a decent roll. They get 10 inches, so that will put them over. And that will be the end of Bregen's activation. Final activation of the first round. We have the Saxon missiles up at the back there. So they're kind of out of range. But I think I could, with a decent roll, get them into at least shooting range to have some firing done in this turn. So what I am actually going to do is I am going to have them move and shoot. So they'll only get 2d6 movement, and then when they fire, they will hit. I'll have to subtract 1 from their hit movement. They'll get 2d6. They'll get 7 inches. So now the question is, are those missile troops within 2 feet of an enemy? I don't know. It's going to be close. Yes, just barely. They are in range of warriors and elites. I'm going to fire at the elites because or the warriors, because they're easier to wound or hurt. However, since I moved since they're about 24 inches away, I'm only going to be able to hit them on 6s. So I will get 4 shots hitting on 6s. So here we go. 4 shots hitting on 6s. We do get 1 hit. Now, on a 4 or a 5, I will give them shock. On a 6, I'll kill one of them. A 5. So I do put 1 shock onto the warriors over here. So that's unexpected. Alright, for the final activation of round 1, I actually do have an uncommanded unit of warriors over there. So they will get to move. I'm hoping to kind of move them back behind the farmhouse there to hold the Saxon flank. So they will get 3d6. They will have to subtract 1 pip because they will be moving into kind of minor terrain there. So let's see what we get. Ooh, that's not very great. They get a 8, but I have to subtract a pip from 1, so they'll only be able to move 5 inches. So let's survey the battlefield after round 1. So here, looking at the Saxon line, they have a nice defensive line right here guarding the outside of the village here, protecting their lord who is trying to loot these buildings while the rest of his warband are basically on guard duty. We do have a unit back here that is help protecting the flank from the approaching Britons. All in all, they're in a very good position round 1. They really lucked out with getting that 4 rounds of movement at the beginning of the raid, put them right in the middle, and allowed their Saxon lord to really hit those buildings uncontested. Now they are dealing with quite the force of Britons advancing on them. They have the British lord with his elite unit and a warrior unit in shield wall, so they'll be pretty formidable. We got another unit of warriors coming across that small pond, and then we have a bunch of levy making up the flank of the Britons. Just from the amount of bodies, they are going to really outnumber the Saxon line here. However, the quality is on the side of the Saxons. They have 2 elite units there. They do not have their lord and their champion, who bring quite a few dice to the table. So in the upcoming combat, I think they will be probably down in the dice, but I think they'll be able to hold off long enough for the lord to loot the buildings and get away scot-free. So really, they're just need to hold out long enough for a few more rounds for Leonhard there to finish looting these farmhouses. Anyway, we'll start with round 2 next. So I realize I made a little bit of a error. It hasn't really impacted the game yet, but this unit of warriors that was looting these farms said they can actually only hold 1 horde of gold or whatever. So they will not actually be able to loot another one of these farmhouses and carry the gold away, which is kind of a problem. So instead, I'm going to have these guys loot that farmhouse to try and grab some plunder. The only problem is they are seeing the Britons advancing on them. So I'm not sure if that would have really changed my placement of things. But it did kind of impact the Saxons. So we'll see if the Britons can capitalize on me not knowing the rules all that well. And at the beginning of round 2 here, we have a look at the Briton flank that is attempting to move behind the Saxon line. They are just levy, but I feel like they might actually be pretty impactful in the coming rounds. All right, So for the first activation of round 2, we are going to get Saxon leader number 2. All right, so here's our second leader. That's Rickamere. Now, he's in an interesting position. He might be able to get a charge off and actually get into combat this round. But that would really open up his flank. I think what he wants to do is move perpendicular to the, maybe an angle to this tree right here to secure the flank of the 2 elite groups to his left. I think that will be most important for him. If he charges out, he's going to be surrounded in about 3 different groups. So they'll get 3d6 movement on this. They only need a few inches, so it's really not worth even rolling this, but yeah, there we go. They got more than enough. So I'm just going to move these guys right like this. Boom. Oh, that's not part of him. So that way, these groups coming from this direction will have to run smack dab into them. They're not really going to be able to get around that tree. Let's see. For his second activation, I think I'm just going to buy a fate card. So I'm going to buy a fate card, strong arm. Sure. And I'm going to toss out Armor Bright because my lord is really not fighting. The next noble to activate will be, alright, the British missiles. The British missiles are down here. I'm going to have them fire at those warriors again. They are within 12 inches, so they'll get 4 shots. They haven't moved or anything, so no penalty. They're in open ground, so they will be hitting on 4s. They only got 2 hits. Okay. They need 4 or better to impact those warriors. 5. Alright, so they will put 1 shock onto that group of warriors. So we'll just put this nice little marble back here, and that will signify their shock. And missiles are done. Alright, next up we have Saxon missiles. Alright, they are going to have to move, I think, again. So the missile troops are going to fire at this group of warriors. They get 4 shots. They're only hitting on 5s and 6s. They get 1 5. 4 or better to do anything. They get a 2. Nothing happens. As you can see, missiles are not all that impactful in this game. Next up, we have Saxon leader number 1. Okay, this is going to be good for the Saxons. They really needed him to go first. They're kind of gambling here. Alright, so it's Rickamere's turn. Or not Rickhamere, it's Wulfric's turn here. Again, very fortunate for the Saxons here. I kind of gambled having these guys out there, thinking about it after I moved them. If I wanted to, for my Britons, I could have moved the line up to attack those guys without really having these guys being, well, they might have been able to join at least one group. But this way, this will ensure that this group is pretty well protected. All right. All right, so for Wulfric's turn, he is going to activate to move. For Wulfric's first initiative point, we're going to have these guys attempt to charge. First thing I'm going to do, though, is I am going to I'm going to be playing on this an aggressive charge, which gives them one to their hit roll. I'm going to be moving 3d6 to get into charging range here, and I will definitely make the charge here. So let's go ahead and move them into contact. All right, let's get a quick look at the action here as the two lines clash. I don't know, this combat, I think it's going to be pretty even though the Saxons have the aggressive charge card. The Britons have quite a bit of dice with their champion. They'll probably be pretty close to matching them. And they are in a shield wall. So let's go ahead and roll out this combat. Alright, before we start rolling off for each side, I am going to use a shield wall brace card. So that will pretty much negate the aggressive charge played by the Anglo-Saxons. This is going to give a -1 to hit in combat. So really just negating the aggressive charge played by the Anglo-Saxons. Alright, so when we total up the amount of dice that they'll get 1 for the Lord. They'll get 6 for the men in that unit, 6 for the men in that, so we're at 13. They'll get 1 extra dice because these guys are elites going up against warriors, so they outclass them. So they will have a total of 14 dice coming at the Britons. Alright, so 14 dice hitting on 4s, 5s, and 6s. Alright, actually not that great of a roll. Let's see, they have... yeah, just a little below average actually, so they will get 6 hits. Alright, so each group will have 3 dice rolled against them, and they will ignore the first kill. If any are killed, they'll ignore the first one because they are a shield wall. Alright, so let's roll for the Briton elites first. Only a 6 will kill. So that is... okay, so they will put 2 points of shock onto that elite unit. Alright, so we'll put 2 back there. Now on the warriors... so the warriors are actually going to take 1 death and 2 shock. So actually, shield wall will negate the death, but they did have 2 4s, so they will suffer 2 shock. Okay, so no one died, but quite a bit of shock put on the Britons during that first phase of the combat. Now, of course, the Britons will hit back at the Saxons. So we have a champion here, so he actually counts as 2. 6. Alright. 12. Alright, 2, 6. Alright, so we're at 12 plus 2 for the champion, 14. So, equal number of dice coming back at the Anglo-Saxons. So we got 14 dice hitting on 4s. So they ended up with 7 hits, only 1 better. Alright. However, so we'll put 4 on the guys on the right. 3 on the guys on the left. Alright. So, only 6s will kill. Oh, they get 1 kill. Alright. So, guys on the left will lose 1. No shock, though, so that's pretty good. And then the guys on the left will get 2 shock. All right, so one guy did die, so he is gone. However, again, since there's only a differential of one death, no one's really considered the victor, so we have to immediately fight a second round of combat. The only thing that's changed, instead of having 14 dice, we have to subtract 1 for the guy missing here. Oh, and I need to roll to see if this guy got hurt. So I need to roll to see if Wulfric takes a wound there. On a 1 is the only way he can take a wound. So he's okay. Alright. Alright, so for this round of combat, they're going to get just 2 less dice this round because this guy's dead and there's 2 shock on this group, so we have to subtract 1 dice. So they're going to have 12 dice hitting on 4s. Actually, pretty good roll there. Very good. Alright, so they got 7 hits. Since I'm in shield wall, I get to allocate the odd hit, so I'm going to put that onto my elites because they're harder to kill. So first let's roll for my elite group. Nothing. Ooh, what a terrible roll. So nothing happens with them. For the group of warriors over here. Oh, 1 dies and 1 shock. They're in shield wall though. So they will not, no one will die, but these warriors will get another point of shock. They are getting kind of excessive there. That's going to really hurt them as they fight back here. They're going to be down 3 dice just due to shock. All right, so no one died, but more shock put on the Britons there. Britons are going to hit back. They are going to get 1 less dice than they had before because we have 6 shock between the 2 groups. So they are only going to get 11 dice. So, you know, they're rolling less dice than the Saxons already. All right, so we got 11 dice, and we are hitting on 4s. All right. So they get 7 hits as well. Pretty even on the allocation of hits. We'll do the same thing as last time. Since they're not in shield wall, I get to choose where the extra hits go, and I'm going to choose to put it on this group on the right, in the hopes that I get a wound on Wulfric. That's the hope. So only 6s kill, 4 and 5 split shot. Oh, we got 1 6, and we got a 4. So one will die, and 1 will get some shock. Let's see. Take that guy away. The other group of elites on the right. Oh my god. Oh, I swear I'm not trying to rig this against the Saxons, but both games I played, Britons just roll really well. All right, so another guy dies, and they get 2 shock. All right, so since 2 men died during that combat, the Saxons need to fall back 1 inch for every amount of shock they have. So this group has to fall back 4 inches, and this group has to fall back 1. That's going to break their mass formation and cause a little bit of problems here. So they are going to be back here. These guys, they have to fall back 1 inch. So they're just going to be right here. All right, I need to roll to see if Wulfric is wounded. He's missing 2 guys, so on a roll of a 1 or a 2, he takes a wound. Alright, he rolled a 5, he is fine. So Wulfric moves back. Alright, so not what the Saxons were looking for. They made a bold move and got pushed back. Alright. So that is Wulfric. Actually, he still has 1 initiative point left. We're not in combat anymore, so I am going to remove 1. I'll rally 1 point of shock from that group. All right, first round of combat over, and it was a good one for the Britons. All right, next up we have British Leader 1. So British Leader 1 is Magnus Maximus right now, and I'm going to activate these guys to move. First, actually, I'm going to draw a fate card since I am in need of 1. So we are going to draw Fear. Now I'm going to move these guys. They are on kind of uneven terrain, so they will be subtracting 1 for each of their rolls. So my hope is to get them into contact with these guys over here. So they get to roll 3d6. All right, they roll an 11, have to subtract 1, so they'll get 5, 7, 8 inches. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough to put them into combat here. It looks like it's just enough. Just enough for some combat. Alright, so as we look at the combat here, counting up the amount of dice, I'm only going to have 7 dice attacking as the Britons here. In fact, it's going to be exactly the same on the other side because we have 6 men. Don't we? Yeah, alright. So we have 6 men. Rickamere is in the fight. We'll put him right over here. Alright. So they too will get 7 dice. So we'll roll for the Britons first, and then roll for the Saxons. I'm not going to play any cards this round. We'll just roll it out. All right. So, seven dice, hitting on 4s. Yikes, not good. So the Britons only get 2. All right. Kills on 5 or 6s, shock on 4s, and I picked 3s. We do get a kill, and we get nothing. All right, so 1 will die from the Saxons. But now they'll get to hit back, and they also will get 7 dice against the Britons. Wow, much better. All right, so the Saxons get 4 hits. They kill on 5 and 6s. 3 and 4s get shock, I believe. So 1 dies, but they're going to put a ton of shock on the Britons. All right, so 1 guy's dead, but 3 shock is put on the Britons. We'll also need to roll to see if either of the commanders are wounded in the fight. So they each lost 1, so on a 1 they get a wound. Oh no, that's not good. So Magnus gets a wound. He is now a status 1 noble. He only gets 1 initiative point now, and let's see what happens over here. Rolled a 6, so Rickamere is okay. Now it was an even trade, so we got to fight this round all over again. So counting up the dice, we'll get 1 for my noble for them, and 5, so we'll get 6 dice. But since I have excess shock, this group is only going to get 5 dice. So Britons are rolling 5, and the Anglo-Saxons are rolling 6. So we'll do the Britons first again. 5 dice, hitting on 4s. We get 3 hits. Wounds on 5s and 6s, 3 and 4s cause shock. Only 1 shock. Now the Anglo-Saxons get to hit back. They get 6 attacks, hitting on 4s. And oh my god, they got a full house. Oh, this is going to be real bad. This is going to be real bad for the Britons here, I believe. Oh my god. They wiped them out. Holy moly. Holy god. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. They got... I've never seen that before. They got 6. They just wiped out that entire unit in that round. And I believe they killed they killed Magnus. No. I really like that name, Magnus Maximus. Wow. That is going to cause some morale issues, I think, for the Britons here. Man, what a comeback. So, this battle just got a whole lot more interesting after kind of taking a whooping there. The elites, the warriors hit back with a vengeance and absolutely annihilate this unit. Wow. And not only that, they killed Magnus. No. Whoa. That is crazy. Alright, so now I need to roll for the morale impact of that unit getting wiped. So I will roll a d6 to see the impact of our morale for the warriors. We get a 3. Alright, so that reduces our morale down to 4. Now for the noble being killed, that is a 3 as well. I believe that reduces it a further 2 points. Nope, I lied. So that will reduce our morale 1 point for our noble being killed. So we're down to 3 points of morale. And I believe the Saxons still have 7. So that 1 round of combat halved our morale. Once we get to 0, the Britons lose. So what a great round for the Saxons. Next up we have British leader number 2. Alright, let's see if you can rush in and help. So here we have British leader number 2. He needs to move these guys. So, oh man. What to do here? Alright, this is going to be a hard round to swallow, I think, for the Britons. As I zoom out here, what I really would have liked to do is send both of these units over the wall to try and take this farm. But given the circumstances of this unit getting wiped out right here, I really need these guys to come and help reinforce my forces. So we're going to start with these guys. We'll see how far they're able to get. I need someone over there. So I'm going to use this first initiative point to move these guys 3d6. I need a real good roll here. 9 inches. That's not really going to do it, I don't think. not quite going to be enough to get them into combat. So we will... However, they will probably be close enough to aid in a coming combat. So when everyone piles in, I think they'll probably be close enough to partake in that. I'll move him with them. And then I still have one initiative point. I'm going to try and move these guys over it. I'm treating this kind of like the wall as light terrain, so I'll have to subtract 1d6 of movement from whatever they roll. Alright, so for their movement, they only move 10. I have to subtract a d6, so they will lose 2. So they will get 8 inches of movement. Not quite enough to get into combat, but they're close. Alright, all that's really going to do is try and prevent that unit from looting anything. I do not think those levy will last very long. Alright, next up we have the Saxon Lord. Alright, so now it is going to be my Saxon Lord's turn, and he has an interesting dilemma here. He could keep these guys in the fight, especially after the last round of combat, which saw an entire group of warriors get demolished. It's one of their better troops for the Britons. All they have left is a bunch of levy and one group of elites. So what I might do is try, and since the morale of the Britons is only at 3, I might just try and go for an all-out victory. I might actually send these guys up and take out the levy, because the left flank's just filled with levy. They're not going to do much of anything. They're just going to get piled on, I think. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll have to drop my plunder, but, you know, if I can get the Britons to 0, I win anyways. I don't have to worry about trying to escape with the plunder. I just scare them off. So that's what I'm going to do. So for my first initiative point, I am going to move these guys up into that field where the levy had advanced. So I'll roll 3d6. Let's see what that will give me. I might have to subtract 1. So that is 10 inches. Okay, so that will put me right here. For my second initiative point, I'm actually going to move my lord to join this group. So he will be able to move 3d6 spaces. Yeah, he will make that without a problem. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your champion moves with your lord. I looked through the rulebook, couldn't find anything on that. If you know, if I'm doing it wrong, I don't think I have to roll for both of them. Alright, and then, so they're now with that group. And then for the final, his final initiative point, I'm going to attack. So for his final initiative point, I'm going to charge, but first thing I'm going to do a strong arm, so I'll only get to roll 2d6, it doesn't matter, look how close I am, but they get to throw a 1d6 per man, so they're going to get to throw 6, I don't know, axes or javelins here, and on a 5 or 6, they're going to give shock to that unit of levy, so I'm going to try and wipe out this unit right away. So here is the missile volley from that group of warriors. Okay, they only put one shock on that levy. Now they will roll a 2d6 to get into combat. I mean, they basically can roll anything here and be fine. Yep, they roll an 11, so they're now in combat. And they are going to put a real big hurting on these levy here. So as we look at this battle in the wheat field here, Saxons are going to get a whole lot of dice. So my leader is actually entering the combat, so he gets 1. We get 6 here, and then 2 for get 2 for the champion. So they're going to be rolling 9 dice, whereas the Britons will only be rolling 6. But the thing about levy is they get cut up with really any dice roll. They die super easy. So it'll take them a miracle not to get cut up here. I'm thinking maybe this was dumb. I should have, as the Britons, maybe just let them loot, because it looks like these levy are going to get hit real hard. So first we'll see if they get any hits. On the 4s, 4+, they get a hit. About average roll. Actually, they only get 4 hits. 5 and 6s will kill a levy, whereas 2, 3, or 4 put shock on them. Alright, so they get 2 will be killed, and they will get 2 shock on them. Alright, now they do get the hit back, so before we add the deaths and the shock, let's hit them back. They get 6 attacks. They get 3 hits. 5 and 6s kill a guy. They only put one shock on him. So 2 will die. They will get 2 more shock. Since they lost by 2, they now have to fall back for as many shock as they have. So they're going to have to fall back. So these guys are going to have to fall back 3 inches, basically on to the other side of the hedge here. They did not fall back due to excess shock, though, so the Saxons will just stay there. Okay, so that is the end of that combat. Could have gone worse, actually, for the levy there, but this flank of the Britons is in trouble. Final card of the round, final activation, is going to be the British Lord. Alright, he needs to do something to turn this battle around. This battle is kind of getting out of hand here. I think I'm going to use 2 of his activations to get rid of the shock. For his final activation, he's going to charge in. So they will get to move, since they're in a shield wall, 2d6 to get into combat. Alright, they will do that. Yeah, now I'm going to move really close to that other group there so that I can pull them into combat. So we're going to come into contact right here. Now, what that's going to end up doing is pulling everyone around here into combat. You know what? I'm going to put him in there too. He's coming in the front lines. All right, so we got both of my champion and my guys going in. All right, here is the game-defining clash. I would like to have a Carpe Diem this round, but that's not happening. So let's roll the British first. There's going to be a ton of dice here. So 1 for my leader, 2 for my champion, 5 from this group because they have 2 shock. So we're at 8. 5 from this group because they have shock. So that's 13. 6 from this group. And let's see here. And 1 from my noble there for a total of 20. Okay. So we'll have 1, 4, that's 5. Another 5. Minus 1, so 4. So they're at 9, but they're 1 better than the warriors they're fighting against. So they get 10. 15. 16, and then 1 because they're extra because they're fighting levy. So it will be a clash of 20 versus 17. So see if those few extra dice will be the deciding factor for the Britons. All right, so the Britons hitting first. 4 plus causes a wound. So a little less than the average. They got, oh, nope, exactly the average. They got 10 hits. All right, so there are 3 groups involved. So I'm going to put three on the warriors to the left. I don't think I can actually choose for them to put the extra hit on them because they're not engaged with my shield wall. Well, actually, they kind of are in contact. Okay, yeah, I'm going to put 4 on the warriors and then 3 on the 2 groups of elites. So we will go ahead and roll that out. So for the elites with Wolfric attached, I believe that's nothing. Yep, that's nothing. All right. Next up for the elites without any noble attached. All right, a death and a shock. For the warriors, death and a shock. All right. So overall, 2 are dead. So shock here, 1 more guy dead, and then guy dead here, and another shock. I'm going to pull out fear. So I get to choose a group of warriors that are 6 inches from my my champion, which will be this group. I believe they're within 6. Yep. And I get to put 1d3 of fear onto them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I rolled a 4. I would put 2 on. So the Saxons will have 16 dice, not 17 because of the fear that I put on one group. All right. Ooh, that looks like a really good roll. Let's see. 4. They got it 4 less dice and got exactly the same amount of hits. So that'll be interesting. All right, so we're going to take 3 on the levy, 3 on... Oh, they got 1 less, I guess. 3 on the levy, 3 on the warriors, 3 on the elites. Start with the elites. We got 1 shock. On the warriors, 2 dead, no shock. And 2 shock, 1 dead. All right, so these guys were in a shield wall, so they'll be fine. We will have 1 dead from each group. All right, so after combat there, we lose another guy from this unit. We lose a guy from that unit. These guys get 2 shock. These guys get another shock. It's actually a tie on kills, so we are going to have to do this again. I do have to roll to see if any nobles were injured or killed. Alright, so we have a bunch of rolls we need to make to see if we have some wounded nobles here. So for this guy, let's see. So since this guy, even though this guy's the group that he's attached to, didn't suffer any casualties, his formation did. So I still need to roll to see if he is injured. He has 2 missing from this group, so on a 1 or a 2 he takes a wound. 4, he's alright. I did lose 1 guy here, but he still has 6 in that group, so no point even rolling that. Our man Bregan's over here. He lost 1 guy, so on a 1 he takes a wound. He rolled a 4. And our man, whatever. Let's move this tree. All right. Our man Rickamere here. He has lost 2, so on a 1 or 2 he takes a wound. 3. So all the nobles are okay. So next round of combat after all that. So adding up the totals, we got 2, 3, 4. So we got 2, 3, 6, 9 minus 1. So that's 8. We have 5 minus 2, 3. That's 11. We got 5 more minus 1. So that's 15. 16. So they'll have 16 hits, or 16 attacks. So we'll have 1. We'll have 4 here to make 5. We'll only get 2 from this group because of shock. So that's 7. We'll only get 2 from this group too because they have a lot of shock. So that's 9, 10. Is that right? Oh, and they get 9, 10 because they outclass these guys. 11 because they outclass those guys. Okay, that makes more sense. All right. So Britons have 16 attacks. I guess about average. So I get 7 hits. So what we will do is 2 on each, 3 on the warriors. 2 on each elite, 3 on the warriors. So for the warriors, nothing. For the elites, nothing. For the next group of elites, 1 shock. For the next group of warriors, 1 shock. So actually, pretty bad round for the Britons there. They didn't kill anybody. All right. So now we will have Now we are going to have the Saxons hitting back with 11 dice.
So hitting on 4s. That's pretty good roll. That's a really good roll. So they get 6. So 2 per group. So we'll start with the elites. Nothing. Next group of warriors. 2 shock. We'll get the levy. 1 dead. Alright. So not that very eventful of a final round of combat there. Let's take him out. And then 2 more. 2 more shock. Alright. So I need to roll to see if he gets wounded. On a 1 or 2 he gets wounded. 4 he's good. Alright, now we have a bunch of excess shock around here. These guys have excess shock. These guys have excess shock. These guys have excess shock. Alright, so we don't really have to do much here with the excess shock. Everyone just has to fall back an inch. So no formations will be broken here. So these guys have to fall back 1 inch. Alright. These guys don't. These guys have to fall back 1 inch. Alright, and that's the end of that combat. I thought it was going to be more brutal, actually. Not that very many people died. Last thing we need to do is we need to get these guys moved, since they are an uncommanded group. Oh, these guys are a bunch of dead. So they'll get to move 3d6, -1 because they're crossing that pond. So they'll be able to go 10, 12 inches. So at the end of round 3, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. I don't really know who has the advantage here. You know, the Saxons do have 2 fresh groups over here with their lord. They have only levy in front of them. So that's not too terrible for them. Coming over here, you know, the Saxons have lost some guys. I think they've lost about 2 guys in each group here. The Britons are still looking pretty good. Their elites don't have too much shock. None are dead. This group does have excess shock, so that's a little troubling, but they've only actually lost 1 warrior. They're still in a shield wall. And the levy actually, you know, they've held up okay through the 2 rounds of fighting. So, I don't know. The Saxons were getting a little cocky there, but, you know, overall I think that the Britons have had a little bit better of a time during the fight. So, I don't know. I might think about trying to loot up and get out of here. Especially since it seems like not that much is happening in here. You know, not a lot of people are actually dying. So, we'll see what happens in the next round. I'm going to have a good think about the Saxons if I want to try and press my advantage up against the levy. But then realizing that I might be coming up against a full elite unit that hasn't had any casualties, you know, that is kind of scary. These guys are still in shield wall. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do as the Saxons, especially with all this shock. it will be interesting to say the least. We'll see what happens in the next round. All right, so as we start round 3, I had to think about what I want to do with Leonhard here. If I want to just try and loot and scoot or keep fighting. I think I decided, since this is a solo game, I kind of have to do a little bit of role playing so that, you know, the different sides will act a little bit differently. And again, for Leonhard, he's an invader. He's a Saxon warlord. He is going to be aggressive, and what he sees here is he smells some blood in the water. He sees this levy being beaten back, pretty weak. The only thing that's guarding the flank of the Britons is 2 units of levy, one which has already received some punishment, and another who are just coming to the fight, but again are just levy. And he has 2 groups of warriors that are unhindered, and especially since the Briton morale is really low after they lost their one of their lieutenants. One of the nobles died, an entire group of warriors got wiped off the table. They are actually, their morale is pretty low. All right, they only have 3 points of morale, whereas the Saxons still have 7. So I think I'm going to take the gamble with Leonhard here and try and press home, smash the Briton flank, and roll up the shield wall that is over here. If I can actually take out a few of those levy, there's a good chance that their morale will break and the battle will be over. So that's what I'm going to take. I'm going to stop trying to loot. As I had decided in the previous round, I'm just going to continue with that strategy of trying to break the Britons after getting a really advantageous roll against those warriors, the Briton warriors, the Briton comitatenses that I wiped out. All right, so round 3 will begin here with our first activation. Okay, so the first activation of, what are we on, round 4? Will be the Saxon Lord. Okay, that's what he wanted. He wanted an early activation to try and do some things here. So, all right, so my Saxon Lord is up. Leonhard, he is with a unit of Dugath warriors, and he has a champion there. He's going to try and make it to these guys that had to retreat behind this hedgerow here. Now, in order to make it, since it's, I'm going to have to subtract 1d6 crossing that, I'm going to use Bounding Move, which will allow me to roll an additional d6 this turn. All right, and I am crossing. I consider these, I know I've watched some games where people did not consider like wheat fields to be minor terrain. I think kind of keeping formation while going through like a wheat field would be a little difficult. So I do consider that to be minor terrain. So they're already going to lose one pip. I'm going to have to subtract 1 from each dice that I'm rolling, and I'm going to have to subtract a d6 to get through this hedgerow here. So I will be rolling 4d6, subtracting 1 from each of the rolls and a d6. Oh no! That is awful. So they're only going to move 2 inches with that roll. Move. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I've looked this up in the rule book because after my last game I was wondering this. Can I activate that unit again, since I get 3 initiative points to use with my Lord? Can I activate them again to move again to attempt to attack? In most war games you can't do that. But looking through the rules, I saw nothing saying that you could not activate a group again to move. I read over the movement section several times, tried to look at the activation section, didn't say anything about that. And I mean, that goes along with my question, can I use 2 initiative points to rally shock? I've been playing that you can, because I haven't read anywhere else. I even looked through the facts earlier, couldn't find that. So if anyone has played this game, let me know what you do or how you interpret the rules. But what I'm going to say is I still have 2 initiative points. I'm going to attempt to move again. Now, I lost my card, so I won't be able to use that. But I don't know. I don't see why I couldn't use it. Again, I might be doing this wrong. Please let me know in the comments if I am. So I'm going to roll 3d6
for my second initiative point to try and get these guys into combat. Okay, so I end up rolling a 12, and I will have to subtract... I will have to subtract 1d6. So I'll have to subtract 3. So 9 inches will get them into combat. Now, I'm going to have to be kind of clever. You know what? Let's just move these guys back a little bit. Or you know what? We'll have them just move up right into the bushes. Alright, so I'll pretend these guys are in a base-to-base combat as they're fighting through the bushes here. Alright, so now we will roll for the combat here. Alright, so what we will have is... Alright, so for this action we will have, for the Saxons... Anglo-Saxons, they'll have 1 for the Lord, 6 for the warriors, and 2 for the champion there, for a total of 9 dice, versus only 3 dice for the levy over here, because they have some shock that will subtract 1 dice. So this is going to be heavily in the Saxons' favor. So I'm going to be rolling 9 dice here, hitting on 4s. Reroll this one. Alright, so we got 2, 4, 6. 6 hits. And let's see what happens for the wounds. It looks like 3 are going to die there, and that will destroy the unit because they'll have more shock than they'll have men left. All right, so they will have obliterated their opponent there. All right, so they get to, so the levy get the fight back though, so will get 3 dice, hitting on 4s, 2 hits, 1 dead, and another point of shock will be placed upon them. Alright, so they did take a wound there. But 3 of these guys will die. They will misplace their amphora, which means they have double the amount of shock as people left. So he's gone, he ran away, and that levy unit is destroyed. Alright, so now I need to roll to see what my morale impact will be for losing that entire unit. I rolled a 1. So that didn't actually impact the morale of the Britons. So that is a lucky break. For my last initiative point, I am going to take away 1 shock from that unit. So Saxon Lord had a good round. He wiped out that unit of levy, only taking 1 casualty. Next up, we will have Saxon missiles. So our group of missiles here, they don't really have a line of sight on really anyone that they can fire at. So I'm just going to move them up. If I move them... So if I can move them up here, they might actually have a shot at a unit over there. So let's just move them. They're not going to do much of anything. So they are going to move 11 inches. So that will put them right about here. And let's see. All right, so here they do have a shot, but actually I rolled 3d6, so I can't shoot. All right, never mind. So that's the end of the missiles.
All right, so my British Lord, Aurelian, he's going to have to do something pretty spectacular here to try and turn this battle around. And let's see. First thing I am going to do is I'm going to play Hero of the Age, which is going to allow my leader or champion to double their dice in combat. I'm going to put that, of course, on my champion. One thing, too, to note, rereading the rules in between the last round, I took away one shock from this unit because they were in shield wall when they took the initial shock from archers, and they should have negated that. So I just realized that, so I took it away. Figured to make the battle a little bit more interesting without them having too much shock. Alright, because they shouldn't have had it anyways. So, in this combat, everyone's going to get back into it. So, it's going to pull these guys in. And these guys in. Alright, everyone's back into it. Alright. So, let's count up the dice for the Britons. Get one for my commander. 4 for my champion because of the card I just played. 5 for these guys, so we're at 9. 3 from these guys because of the shock, so we're at 12. 3 from these guys because of the shock, so we're at 15. 1 from this guy because he's a leader, so that's 16 dice. And the Britons, all right, the Britons are going to have 1, 4, 5. Let's see there. -2 from these guys, so 2, 7. -2 from these guys, so 9, 10. So 16 versus 10. All right, that's looking good for the Britons, but in the last round they had a huge dice advantage and didn't do much. So we'll see what happens. All right, so rolling 16 dice, hitting on 4s for the Britons. Not a great roll. That is actually an absolutely awful roll. Wow. That is terrible. Oh, man. Okay, so they only had 4 dice hit. So, okay, we'll put 2 on the first group, 1 on each of the other groups. Shock, nothing. They actually kill somebody. Crazy. All right, and then on the warriors, shock. Okay. But now the Britons get to hit back with 10 dice. So we got 10 dice hitting on 4s. Oh, man. Oh, man. Much better. Holy God. They hit on 8. They hit out 8 out of those. Wow. This is not going to be good. Not going to be good for the Britons. Wow. What a roll. Or I'm sorry, 7. They hit 7. Okay. So I'm going to put 3 on my first unit, 2 and 2. Okay. So for the first unit, nothing and 1 shock. For the second unit, nothing. Okay. For the third unit, 1 shock and 1 dead. Alright, so after all that, it was pretty even trade. Okay, so we will have some people retreating due to excess shock here. So these guys have 6 shock. So they need to retreat 2 inches. Oh, and I do need to roll a dice for this guy to see if he gets wounded. So on a 1 through 3, he gets a wound. 4, he's good. These guys... Oh, wait, no. These guys have blown their amphora. These guys are gone because they have double the amount of shock as people. Ooh, okay, that's kind of rough. So we got to do a morale check now. This is going to be a bloodbath, this battle. Oh, man. All right. So, all right, we have to do a morale check to see how many points of morale the Saxons lose with that. All right, so they lose 2 points of morale, I believe, for losing that group of elites. All right, so they're at 5 morale now. Get rid of these. These guys fall back an inch because of excess morale. I think I could have these guys follow up 2 inches, but I don't really want to do that. Okay. But we're still going to have to fight another round of combat because these guys are still dug in. They are a hardy bunch of elites there. Okay, so we will have one more round of combat, and these guys will be able to support. So for this next action, 3... They get 5, 8. I have to subtract 3 from these guys. So they only provide... Oh, they're in support, so they just add 2 anyways. That's right, they're in a shield wall. So we'll have... all right, let's do it again. 3, 5, 8, 9, 10 for warriors and support. All right. So they'll get 10 dice. These guys will only get... These guys are only going to get... So I need to roll, so I forgot to roll for this guy to see if he got wounded, because even though no one died in his group, someone died in his formation. And when that happens, you still have to roll a check. So he's missing 2 guys in this unit, so on a 1 or a 2, he takes a wound. So for this combat, all right, so they're only going to get 1 plus 3, so they're getting 4 dice. So we have, so we're going to have 10 versus 3. All right. All right, so we're going to roll 8 dice. Or actually, sorry, 10 dice. Hitting on 4s. Better roll. 6 dice hit. 6 kills. 5s and 4s cause shock. 1 die, and nothing else happens. So 1 will be dead, though. They get to hit back with 4 dice. Two hits. They're in shield wall, so it will negate that death. And they get 1 shock. So at the end of that combat, 1 more guy died here. Now I do need to roll to see if the noble gets injured. On a 1 through 3, he's injured. He rolls a 4. He's fine. All right. So I only used 1 activation from this guy. So, I meant to draw a card, so I know you're supposed to do it at the beginning. I was always going to draw a card, so I'm going to do +1 for missile troops. And since I'm still in combat, I can only rally shock from the group I'm in, so I'll use my other point to rally 1 point of shock away from my elites. All right, and that will be the end of his turn. So things are kind of interesting here. Again, it's so even, I don't want to withdraw. I mean, the smartest thing for me to probably to have done was just to try and loot and get out of here to ensure my victory. But, you know, I'm being bold here. It's really still, I think, anyone's game. These guys have a ton of shock, so they're kind of, even though they haven't lost very many guys, they've only lost one, they are still kind of in trouble here. And then these two guys are levy, so I don't know. Still kind of anyone's game here. All right, next to activate will be the British missiles. So my missiles right here are going to take a shot at these guys. Now I think they're, let's see, are they outside 12-inch range? I'll use my card, True Aim, on them, so I'll get +1 to hit. Since they're in the open, I will be hitting on 3s. Yeah, okay, so I double checked. These guys will be hitting on 3s since they're within 12 inches of the target. And I played that card, they usually hit on 4s. So 3+ equals a hit. So all but 1. Okay. Now I believe 5 or 6s will wound, or will kill a guy. Okay, no, I lied. So only 6s will kill somebody. 4 and 5s will put shock onto this unit. So two shock put on them. That's pretty brutal. They now have 7 shock on them. 1 more shock and they'll run away. So good job, archers. They actually did something pretty critical there. Next up we have British leader number 2. All right. So I'm going to actually detach from these guys. And I am going to actually order a move for them. So I am going to move them 3d6. All right, so I'm going to move these guys back. Since I'm changing my facing, though, I only get 2d6. So they'll get 8 inches of movement. I think I might have to subtract 1. So they'll get 6 inches of movement, and I'm going to put them kind of like this. Wait, wrong guy. They're going to be all that's protecting my flank from these guys. And then with a bold move. Now, I'm not in base-to-base contact with these guys, so I can't really accompany them. Not sure if I want to. I'm going to try and charge these levy into these guys. It might be a silly move, because these guys probably will be able to join in. But if I can just get 1 point of shock on them, those guys are gone. They flee the table, which would be kind of huge. So, for my second activation, I'm going to move these guys. They get 3d6 movement. I need a decent roll here. 7 inches, I don't know if that'll do it. Seven inches will not do it. Dang. So my gamble does not quite pay off. Dang. Not good. Not very good there. Next up, Saxon leader number 1. Yeah, he's stuck in combat. Really, the only thing I can do is take one unit of shock off of him, and we're going to have to fight again here. All right, so let's see. 3, 9, 8, minus 3 here, so 10. So 10 for these guys versus 4 for the Saxons. So let's do the Saxons first since they're the ones attacking. So they get 4 shots at them. Only hit on 1. So I'm going to put this on my elite unit, and nothing happens. The The Britons hit back with 10. They get 5 hit. Kills on 6s, shock on 4s or 5s. 2 more shock, but no one dies. So after that combat, nobody died, so we gotta fight it again. These guys did get two shock on them, so they will, in fact, roll only 3 dice this time. Otherwise, nothing else happened. All right, so we'll do the Saxons roll first. 3 shots, none hit. Britons answer back with 10 dice. Four hit. Kills on 6s, 4 and 5s cause shock. 2 more shock, but nobody dies. So not a great round of combat for anybody. These guys do have a lot of shock now. It's a good thing that I had removed 1 shock at the beginning of that combat, or else they would have fled the table by now. All right, so that is the end of that combat. Saxon leader number 2 is up. So Rickamere is up, and he is going to detach himself from this unit, and they're going to retreat. So they are going to... I'm going to move them to the farmhouse. That's where I want them to go, behind them. So they will get 3d6. So they get to move 8 inches. That'll get them to the farmhouse. And they actually need to keep facing away. They can take all the shock with them. All right, now this is where my ploy for the Britons failed last time. So now I'm going to have these guys charge into the levee. So they'll get 3d6. Ooh, 6 inches. Should be enough, though. Definitely enough. Now, he is not part of that group because I didn't join him, because that would cost an initiative point to get into contact with them. So, oh, actually, okay. And I do have one last card. That I want to play there. So I'm going to use a strong arm. So they're going to hurl missiles at these guys trying to cause shock on a 5 or a 6. So before the combat, we have the warriors hurling their weapons. They get 6 shots, and they cause 1 shock on the levee. All right, now for the combat between them. The Saxons will get 7 dice, and the levee will get 6. So we'll start with the Saxons first. They get 7 dice, hitting on 4s. Pretty good roll there. They hit with 5 of those. And man, I think they kill on a 3, 4, or 5. No, they kill, so they'll kill the levee on a 5 or 6, and they'll cause shock on a 2, 3, or 4. So 3 will die, nice roll, and we'll get 2 shock. Now the levee hit back with 6 dice. Not very good hit from the levee, so only 2 go through. So the warriors will just get 2 shock, but no one will die, so that's pretty awful for the Britons. So 3 are dead. 2 more shock. And they are going to have to, the Britons are going to have to retreat after that. And these guys will retreat back 6 inches. I'm guessing they are turning away and running, so they probably have to be facing this way. Yikes. Not good, especially my poor noble out there. He might get his he might get captured in this next round. All right, so that's the end of round 4, and I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag again. The levy got beat down hard, as often happens with a levy. This unit of elites has, man, they have taken round after round of punishment. Now, this shield wall is pretty much perfectly intact still, other than with some shock problems. I don't know, it's so close. This is just going to be a down-to-the-wire bloodbath, I think. Alright, so round, what are we on? 5 now. It's going to get interesting. These guys at the top are going to be able to swing around and cause some problems. Stay upstairs. Alright, here we are in round 5, I think? Maybe 6. So we will draw our first activation of round 5. British Lord goes first. Okay, this is kind of big. British Lord is going to activate to fight these guys. Actually, first thing, he's going to buy a card. Buy a fake card. Carpe Diem. Then we're going to fight a combat. So we will be having, I think it's the same dice as last time. So 8, 10. Going up against only 2 dice in return from the Saxons here. So 10 versus 2. Sixes kill, 4 and 5s cause shock. Alright, so that is going to cause them to flee at the end of this combat. They get to hit back with 2 dice. 1 hit. And nothing happens. So these guys, they have double the shock as they have people, so they will lose their amphora and flee. So we don't have to roll a wound check on him, since all of these guys only got shock. But these guys are gone. Now I just read in the rules that when a noble becomes isolated, he may retreat 3d6 inches back towards a friendly group. So I actually also need to do that for my my British noble, British lord as well. So they're going to retreat 3d6. So he will retreat up to 10 inches back. I'm going to put him in contact with this group. I have to roll a morale check to see how much morale the Saxons lose for losing that elite group. That's a good roll. So that is an awesome roll. So they only lose 1 point. So they are down to 4 morale, whereas the Britons have 3 morale. Now I still have 1 more activation point. I'm going to use that since I'm no longer in combat. I can rally 1 point from this group over here. And that will be the end of the round. Oh, and I am going to roll to see if I can get this guy to back out of combat. He's going to be able to go 8 inches. We'll put him with this group back here. Next up, we will have Saxon missiles. All right, so our missiles are up. So our missiles are going to fire into the back of this fleeing group of levy. They're not in a shield wall, so they make the most sense to attack there. So they are going to get 3 or 4 shots, hitting on 4s. They get 3 hits. Now they kill levy on a 5 or a 6. They kill 1 and they put another shock. Oh man, what a that's good. So it kills 1, gives them 1 shock. These guys now have double the shock, so they are dead. They're gone. So they lost their amphora. They double the shock because they have men now, so they're gone. I have to roll to see what happens with our morale here. So, all right, let's roll to see if I lose any morale. A 2. I do not lose any morale. See who's up next. The Saxon Lord is up. So the Saxon Lord, he is at the front of this hedgerow. I just couldn't, put him there. He's really right there. All right, so that's where I'm going to be measuring from for the movement. So he is going to attempt to charge into these guys. So will get a 3d6. I guess these guys are on the pond there, so he will have to subtract -1 from his rolls. So we get a 11 minus 2 is 9 inches. That might be just enough. Yep, that's enough. All right, so in this combat, they're going to get 5 dice, 6, 8 dice versus 3. The Lord is in combat here. I have to subtract 1 because of that. So, all right. 8 dice. Oh, and 1. I have to add another 1 because these guys are warriors and these guys are levy. So they will get 9 dice to roll against the Britons 3. All right. They get 5 hits. 3 dead. So that would wipe the group. All right. The Britons get the roll back. So they get 2 hits. They will kill 1 and suffer no shock. All right. This group of Sacs is just cutting through levy. So these guys are all dead. This guy's gonna take a wound no matter what because his guys are all gone. He is going to, since he's isolated, he will be able to retreat 3d6. So yeah, he rolled an 8, so he will be back here. And I have to roll 2 dice to see what happens as far as morale goes. My guy did take a wound, so whenever a noble's wounded, we gotta roll. So we will take 1 point of morale for taking that wound. So now the Briton morale is at 2. Now this is the big roll. The levy, they got wiped out on a 6. They would lose 2 morale and the game would be over. A 5. So, okay. Right now, the morale of the Britons is at 1. And I need to take off another guy because another guy died. Interesting development here. All right, so next to activate is going to be British missiles. So British missiles are going to take a point-blank shot at the group of warriors here, seeing if we can't thin those down. So they get 4 shots on them. 3 hit. 6s are killed. 5s and I think 4s are shot. Oh my god. They rolled 2 6s. Oh, okay. So, 2 of these guys are dead. What a shot by the Britons. Man, that is crazy. This is a bloodbath. This is a... There's not going to be very many people left on either side here. All right. So the flank of the Saxon Lord is not as impressive as it was. Now I need to take, see if he takes a wound. So really on 1 through 4, the noble will take 1 wound. He does take a wound. All right, so he has 2 wounds left. I need to roll to see if that affects the morale. I rolled a 4 for the morale check. So they lose 2 morale with the Lord wounded. So they are down to 2 morale, and the Britons have 1 morale. This is crazy. So I forgot, after battling the levy here, I still had 2 initiative points. I'm just going to use one of them to get rid of that shock, and I guess we'll just discard the other point. Saxon leader number 2. Saxon leader number 2 is Rickamere. I am going to try and get him back, and I think we're going to try and loot and get out of here, because this so the shield wall is pretty formidable, and they've lasted through so many combats, only losing like 1 guy. And with the archers taking out 2 from my lord's unit over here, I just don't know if I have the numbers to stand up against that shield wall. So I think I am going to get out of dodge here. That is my plan. So for my first activation, I am going to move to try and get to those guys. 9, I think that should be enough. Okay, we get there. For my next activation, I'm going to have them try and loot this house. All right, I'll get 2 dice. 2 dice to loot. On a 6, we find a bag of, of goodies. And we find nothing. Okay. So that is the end of his turn. Saxon leader number 1. He is up. So Saxon leader number 1 is up. As I said, I don't want to fight this shield wall. So I am getting out of dodge. So I am going to run back 3d6 and try and get to another building to loot it. So we will be going 12 inches. Will get me back into that set of buildings where I had my lord initially looting. All right. And for my second activation, I'm going to have these guys loot the 1 building that we hadn't found any loot yet. And I'll get 2d6. On a 6, I find a treat bag. And we don't find anything. And that's the end of his turn. So here we are at the start of round 6. And we are having now the Saxon Lord is going to try and leg it and get out there with the loot. They're lucky that their opponent is in a shield wall, so they will be moving quite slowly. But they've decided to get out of town, get out of dodge. So Saxon Lord will go first. So for my Saxon Lord, I want him to go over and grab that bag of gold that we left at the farm. So 3d6, I will have to subtract 1d6 for climbing this and 1 pip for getting into light minor terrain. So we do roll a 17, so that's pretty awesome. I'll roll a d6. 17 minus 5, so they will get 12 inches of movement. Actually, they'll only get 9 because I still have to subtract 3. So 9 inches of movement. Okay. Again, I don't know if you're allowed to do this, but for my second initiative point, I am going to move that unit again to get to those bags. Okay, they'll make it, and they'll make it, so with that, they will get into next to it. I don't have any more initiative points because my lord is wounded. Saxon leader number 2 is up. So this guy's initiative, this guy's activation. Since he has a wound on him, he actually only gets to do 1 action, which is which I will use to take away 1 shock from that unit. I don't think yeah, and that's it. So that is the end of his. That will be the end of his activation. Now we go to the British Lord. So for the British Lord, I'm going to have him advance. We're going to try and charge the skirmishers. I'm sure they'll get out of the way. I'm in a shield wall, so I can, and with warriors and elites, so I can only roll 2d6 movement. 3 inches. So that ain't getting them much of anywhere. He still has 2 activations. I mean, it's one to take off another stress. And then for my third activation, I'm going to roll to move again. Again, if I'm getting this wrong, someone please in the comments let me know. If you're not allowed to move twice or do 2 of the same action on the same Lord's activation. Again, I couldn't find that anywhere in the rules. So we'll have them move another 2d6, 7 inches. That will put them into contact with the skirmishers. All right. So I would make contact with them. So what will happen is they are actually get a opportunity to shoot at these guys and then move back 2d6 inches. So they'll get 4 shots. They hit on 3. 2 will go onto the elites. 1 will go onto the warriors. So they actually get 2 shock. Shield wall ignores 1 of those shocks. And then nothing happens to the warriors. Then they move 2d6 back. They move back 8. I'll be right here. These guys move up 7. So I just forgot to hit record, but all I did was I activated this group of warriors that was right here. I had them attempt to loot this house that they haven't looted yet. They failed. And then with this second initiative point, I actually sent them in to fight against the Britons there, just to delay things, so I can try and get these guys out. We'll see what happens. This might have been
might have been a foolhardy move. All right, so we'll go ahead and fight this combat here. All right, so in this combat, my lord is not actually going to partake in the combat. I actually have him back there. So he'll get 2 from the champion, 5 from these guys here because of the shock, and then 2 from the support of the warrior unit here. So he will have a total of 10 dice coming at him. So 10 dice coming at... You know what? Screw it. Wulfric's in on the combat. So 10 dice coming against 7. So I'm going to roll for the Britons first since they are the attackers. They get 7 dice hitting on 4s. Oof. Not good. This will go against each group in the shield wall. Oh no, sorry. It's only going against the elites since they're the ones that they're fighting. Ooh, they kill in a shock. Shield wall, so it ignores this, but they get another shock on them. Man, that shield wall is tough. Real tough. Elites in shield wall. Do not want to mess with them. Alright. So for the Britons, they get 10 dice. Pretty nice roll there. Well, about the average. They get 5. Kills on 5s and 6s. They kill 4 of them. Okay. That's real bad. And, put 1 shock on them. So, yikes. Things are turning swiftly against the Saxons. I also need to roll to see if Wulfric is wounded. Basically, on a 5 or 6 is the only way he doesn't get a wound. Hey, he survives. Alright. They take a shock, and they're going to have to move back 6 inches because of losing the combat so terribly. Alright, so these guys are gone. Saxon leader 1's turn. Wulfric's over. Next up, Saxon missiles. All right. So the Saxon missiles right here are going to shoot on this unit of warriors. They get 4 shots. They get 4 shots hitting on 4s. They get 2 hits. Kills on 6s. Nope, but they are able to put a shock onto the group of warriors, the comitatenses of the Britons. Alright, and that's the end of the round. I think that was what, round 6? Next round, we'll see who goes first. Saxon missiles, there you get to go again. Saxon missiles are going to fire again at these group of warriors. They get 4 shots. Hitting on 4s. 2 hit. And another shock. Okay, that's the end of the missiles turn. Next up, Saxon Lord. Okay, Saxon Lord, you gotta do some stuff. Saxon Lord is going to attempt to pick up that hoard of gold. He needs a 4 or better. He doesn't get it. So I'm going to try again for my second initiative point. He got it. All right, so Saxon Lord now has the sack of gold with him. All right, next up we have British leader number 2. So he can only do one thing, and that is take away a win of shock. And that's his turn over. Next up we have Saxon leader 1. So Saxon leader 1, he is going to move towards this house to check that for loot. He gets to roll 3d6, but he only gets to roll 1 dice to loot that because this unit is so depleted they only have 4 guys left. So they'll get there, so they get to that house. And then with the other command point, he has to roll a 6 to get to find any loot. He rolls a 5, not good enough. And that's the end of Wulfric's turn. Next up, we have the British Lord. British Lord is going to try and charge these guys right there. He gets 2d6 dice. Saxons need a terrible roll here to stay in it. 5 inches. Will that be enough to save the Saxons? Oh, just barely. They're not going to be able to get there. Make sure. They're going to be half an inch short. So they're not going to quite get in there with that first activation. Okay, so again, how I've been playing, I can do the same activation again. So I'll have them move. Before that, I'm going to reduce the shock on my elites by 1. And then roll 2d6 to see if I get to move into them, which I should. Yep, 6. So they are going to come into contact with these guys. Does not look good for the Saxons now. I should have looted and got out, it looks like. So I will get 9 dice versus their 2. Because of all the shock they have. Yeah, they'll only get 2 dice. So, man. 7 dice. Four hit. 1 dies, 2 shock. That's going to destroy that unit anyways. I think that will probably be game, but they do get to hit back with 2 dice. Nothing. Okay. So they lose 1, but with the shock, these guys are now destroyed. This guy takes a wound. So it'll be a miracle for this not to be game over for the Saxons. So yeah, let's roll it. So morale for having the group destroyed. Say 2. So they will lose 1 morale point for having those warriors destroyed. And then we have to roll to see what happens with the Lord getting wounded. 4. That means they lose 2 points. So Saxons end up losing this. Yikes. What a bloodbath. So it turns out to be a British victory here. I thought that the Saxons were going to have them here. 'Cause they got them down with destroying and killing that lord all in one action. They got them down, their morale down real far. I mean, they only end up having one morale point in the end left, the Britons, but just they couldn't close it out because that shield wall was crazy. How many rounds of combat, round after round, probably 10 or 12 rounds of combat, and they only ever lost one guy. The shield wall is ridiculous. I mean, shield walls are just crazy, especially with these elite guys, right? So you have to roll 2 6s on them to kill anybody, which is takes a pretty decent roll. Now, when I first read the shield wall rules, I read it as only the first time in combat that they would receive a death blow would it block it, and then later on in subsequent rounds they wouldn't have that ability. But as I looked over a document on the Too Fat Lardy site by I think one of the creators of the game, they mentioned that this happens every round of combat, and for not only for the entire shield wall, but for each group, they're able to ignore the first kill. At least that's what I read. If I'm doing that wrong, somebody in the comments, please let me know. But from my understanding, that's how good the shield wall is. It just ignores one hit every single round of combat, the first kill, which is crazy good, especially with these elites. So I really need to think, as the Saxons, how to deal with that in the future. Because they'll weather pretty much any storm. I mean, they weathered how many units of warriors and elites from the Saxons. So Saxons started off in a really advantageous position, taking the town. But in the end, the Britain's shield wall smashed through their battle line and entered the town and retook it, scattering the Saxons. And Leonhard is not going to be happy. Looked like he had a pretty surefire victory. He probably should have just looted and left, and he would have been victorious. But instead, he rolled the dice and ended up empty-handed. As I'm really thinking about this, if I wasn't filming this for a YouTube battle report, I probably would have just looted and left, but I wanted to make it more exciting. I knew it was going to be a close game, which it ended up being very close, down to the wire. It was a bloodbath. It was really enjoyable. I thought that would be a little bit more entertaining than getting into like round 2, looting up, and then just leaving before any combat. That doesn't make for a very intriguing video. So, next time though, with the Saxons, I might have to be a little bit more careful. They haven't gotten any loot yet, and all they've taken is some pretty heavy casualties. So I don't know. In the next scenario or two, I might have to be a little bit more crafty with them and not just rush into combat. So anyway, overall a very fun game, and man, so now I'm going to count up the casualties and see what the results are of that. Alright, let's survey the battlefield one last time as we talk about the results. Here we see the triumphant Britons storming through the side of the village here, driving out the Saxons. So after totaling it, because it was such a bloodbath on both sides, both suffered heavy losses, which is either 18 dead or 18 men that have routed from the battle. The Saxons also killed one of my nobles, so that hurt. So in the end, the Britons only got a +3 victory because of how, Pyrrhic it was. So with that, my leader will get a Thief's Hoard. He will also probably be able to promote himself for the next battle. I think he is he's a tribune here. I think he might have enough now plunder to become a legatus. And poor Leonhard suffers another defeat. His men are going to be questioning his leadership after once again being a little too bold with his decisions through here. I think I need to be a little bit more careful with the Saxons. I'm just kind of throwing them in, and it didn't really pan out at the end. I know it was really close, and the Saxons did have an advantage there for a little while, but I really should have not tried to slice through all those levy and flank. The archers, the Saxon or the Briton archers over there protecting that pond. did play a pretty pivotal role in driving back the Saxon flank by killing two of the warriors on a really great roll, depleting them, forcing them back, and that pretty much sealed it after that. If I would have instead stayed put with that unit of warriors and attempted to loot, I think that would have perhaps left a Saxon victory. So anyways, a lot of fun, really close. Had a lot more fun, I think, in this battle because it in my last battle I didn't get very good card draws, and the battle kind of seemed all over the place. I didn't get to like form up a line, like a battle line, and march in unison. Here, I guess it was more like a formal battle, so that was kind of cool. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back in a moment just to wrap things up. But we have a nice British victory here against the Saxons. One last thing before we go, thank you for watching this battle report. I know I haven't been posting many videos recently. My daytime job is a teacher, and this year has been really crazy with the pandemic, and I just haven't had much time. But hopefully I'll be able to start getting more content out there soon. I do appreciate everyone who comes and spends their time watching my videos. If you did enjoy it, please do hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys hopefully soon with a new video. Take care.